Okay, we're back again with Patrick King here. Sorry about that, guys. Had I don't know what the issue was there. Just wasn't getting Patrick's video. So we figured it out. I switched cameras here, and for some reason that seemed to do it. So we'll give this a go again. We'll give people a second to find their way back to this. I'm going to, just while we wait, drop this other video that we had from our YouTube page so no one gets confused.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good, sounds good.
Got a couple folks coming in now, it looks like.
Awesome.
All right, so I think we're good. All right. Marty's back, cool. Cool, so we've got Patrick here. This is our fifth live stream now. I've lost count already. But today we've got something a little bit different going on. So to this point, what we've had is a guest tyer on a couple times a week to just tie some of their favorite flies. Patrick, this is going to be our first go at sort of a new little mini series within this, which we're calling the tie along series. So Patrick, you're an awesome angler. You've been fishing for some time now, but tying you picked up what, like not even a year ago, I want to say?
Yeah, I started seriously tying a year ago. I got a vise 2 years ago, but I just kind of like was fiddling around on it. But I really got into it around just over a year ago. So yeah.
Cool.
You guys have always been there for me, so yeah, thank you for that.
For sure. You've been pumping out some cool stuff. But yeah, so this idea for a stream that we had was sort of like a live instructional. So we're going to do the normal, catfishing talk about why these flies are in our boxes, answer your questions and stuff. But this is going to be sort of a live dialogue between Patrick and I. You chose the patterns today, actually, which I think is cool. So we've got a Boh Spey and an Aqua Scandi going on, two really cool little flies. And yeah, so we'll kind of be both tying in real time the same fly. And you'll see, slightly different ways that each of us tie them. And I know we're using a couple different materials here and there. We're tying different color combos, so you guys can get a chance to see, different ways to approach a similar subject. So I think this will be fun. That'll be neat.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for today. We can get right into it if you want.
Yeah, let's hop into it, and we'll start kind of answering some questions here and getting on with it.
Feel free to just stop by and pick Chris's brain, and I will try to contribute.
No. But, frankly, I mean, hey, you know what? You may not have been tying quite as long, but you've got a very good number of fish to hand already this year. Where's your camera there?
There we go.
Coming through. There we go. Awesome. Cool. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, frankly, you're out fishing me so far this year.
No, I just got really lucky on the credit a couple times this year because we had a relatively mild winter.
Yep.
Just before we dipped into this like freezing polar vortex looking thing. But it was really good throughout December and January. And I could only afford the materials to one fly, and that was the Boh Spey. Just some Marabou. I already had ice dub. And I just need to get the Shank platform.
Yep.
And what you'll notice about the two flies that I picked today, the Aqua Scandi and the Boh Spey, is that not only are they on the same platform, which is the Shank, but they're also tied with very, very similar materials.
Mostly the same stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but it provides two different kinds of looks, and I think it's really unique, and they both swim well, so I mean that's all you can ask for, right? So we'll get into the Boh Spey. As you can see, Chris has got one over there. He's got a black and red, looks like it a little bit, and then I'll just put in this. Let's see if I can get this.
Those probably our two favorite color combos right there. Love it. Number 1 and 2.
There we go.
Very nice. Cool.
There we go. So this is the olive and with a slightly orange head, and this has been the fly that I basically kept on my line all season. I'm not too sure if there's any truth behind this, but I was doing an interview with SoFly a couple weeks ago. They did their year-end interview, and Aldo was mentioning that as Steelhead enter the river systems and as they mature in the river systems, something happened to the rods and cones that manipulates how they perceive colors. So apparently that lends olive flies to doing well better on more mature fish in the system, and like black and blue flies may be doing better on fresh fish. I mean, I can't speak from any anecdotal experience myself, but all those are pretty well fished angler. So who knows?
Yeah.
And I started fishing later in the season too, and the olive has been really performing well for me. So
definitely an interesting point for sure. I think yeah, so yeah, the visibility aspect is the interesting one for sure. I know there has been a lot of talk about that, you know, steelhead, salmon, a whole bunch of different things, and debate over what color is most visible. I think, you know, you also have to address the food sources like Great Lakes steelhead, you know, are on a very different diet for their whole lives compared to the West Coast cousins. You know, so I mean, around here they eat smelt and alewives and stuff like that lots, but you know, they've also, you know, taken a liking to gobies and things like that, and definitely sculpins and things in the rivers. So even if it's not quite as visible, I don't know if olive's worth writing off on those fresher fish. I bet you they still munch those things.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty well.
I picked up a pretty fresh fish in early January on this slide too, so it works well. I mean, what about we see all these cool patterns when we're tying flies to swinging, and they're fun to tie. They're an excellent creative outlet, but ultimately it's just having a fly on the end of the line that you have confidence in.
Really.
So yeah, because if a fish is aggressive to hit a fly, I'm not too sure if the color of the head makes a difference or whether I had a couple more strands of Amherst on here. Yeah. Anyways, enough of the rambling. We'll get right into it. If you guys are looking for another good swinging fly, woolly bugger too.
Oh yeah.
I'll get you started as well. Zonkers, that's also an excellent start. Rapid strip is, as long as you don't do too much stuff with it, it's still very easy to cast.
Yep.
All right, so we're just beginning with the Senyo's articulated shank, steelhead shank, 25 millimeters. Chris just released an excellent video yesterday on the Drift Outfitters YouTube channel about how to start the intruder wire on your shank.
Mm-hmm. We actually have that one that was in my vise. This guy here. This is a reverse tied one, which we aren't going to do today, but video on that exact fly is coming out next week too.
Awesome. Yeah. Matt was telling I had the pleasure to fish with Matt Martin, and he was telling me about reverse tying Marabou to give it more profile, right?
Yeah, it's a really cool little technique there for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like blow drying your hair one way and then the other way to get more volume.
Exactly.
Think about it in that term.
That's a good way.
Anyways, we're pairing that with some Senyo standard intruder wire. A lot of people like to use fire wire or fire line out east or really stiff power pro, but I find that this does a pretty good job, and I'm just going to cut off approximately a 6-inch length for me. You don't want to use any of your good scissors there. And just to start the thread off, this is some Veevus 8/0. Sorry, I'm just going to provide some commentary while you get going there, Chris.
Yeah, so 8/0, yeah, I think 8/0's a nice happy size for most steelhead flies. I don't think you need to really go up to 6 or anything crazy heavy. I think that's a good one. So we've got the wire. Side cutters are a good friend to have when working with this stuff. I think I've got some here. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't worked with it, save your scissors. A pair of these guys definitely help out.
And then you could put your hook on now just to measure out the proportions, but I'm pretty comfortable with it just being like maybe 1.5 times the length of the shank, because I just want the hook to be poking out of the Marabou at the back for those short strikes. So that's a pretty comfortable length. I'm gonna fold it over, pinch it on the shank, and I'm just gonna give it a few wraps to try to hold it in place. And then if I want to reorient it, what's great about these shanks is that it does a really good job of keeping your wire straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you have a flat kind of profile here, yeah, you can get one on either side here, one length, and does do a good job of keeping it straight. Now, Patrick's got a very viable method there. I will say I do it a little differently, as we showed in that video. I like to rig my hook first. I think it's easier to gauge distance. Patrick's is definitely a good way of doing it too, but this is just why I like. So if you're going to rig it first, this is an OPST swing hook. Use your favorite intruder hook. I just take that same length wire. This is about probably 5 to 6 inches as well. Like, don't shortchange yourself when it comes to the wire. And, geez, can't see here.
Up through. So what you guys will notice here, Chris Chris is doing an excellent way to maintain consistency throughout your fly.
Yeah,
But what you'll notice about here is there's a little bump here with these Senyo shanks before we go there. So what I've done, and what Chris has shown in the video on their YouTube channel, is he pulls the 2 tag ends of the wire up through the eye and under the return for some added security. But an easy way to slim down or to maintain an even body here is to just cut your wire so that it falls just along that shank. Not only will that maintain an even body, but that'll also block away this like little sharp edge that you might often cut your thread off. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's a good one for sure. And yeah, these things they are pretty sharp. These little cutaway ends. You can definitely nick your thread pretty easily on those. So that's a good tip. Definitely. Just to kind of go back to this very quickly. So if you wanted to rig it up beforehand, kind of wire through the eye, wrap it down and around the back of the shank here. Like so, and then back down through the eye, same way it went in. Make sure the tag ends are roughly level, just so you have a similar amount of working space, and pull it tight. And then I'm going to tie this in the exact same way Patrick already demonstrated there, so no need to go over this twice. But yeah, I'll pull this hook tight so it actually sits straighter afterwards. But yeah, you can just kind of eyeball where your hook's going to sit. That's why I like doing it. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. So another alternative to the OPST swing hooks, if you're looking for a barbed option, if that makes you feel a little more confident, is the Gamakatsu octopus hook.
Yeah.
I like to swing them in a size 4. Yeah, it's an excellent alternative. Wicked sharp. Gamakatsu is a reputable manufacturer. So yeah, those are excellent hooks as well. Before we continue, or as we continue, we're trying to form a little hotspot at the butt now, and what I like to do is, some people may disregard it as it's going to be hidden by the Marabou anyway, but I like to pick, I like to create a dubbing loop here, and then just put a lot of it in, and then really twist it up, and I'll pick those fibers out so that they're kind of poking out the back, and I find that adds a little bit of a touch to the flies. As if it makes a difference. So you can pick any of your favorite flashy dubbings, SDS Trilobo, Hot Orange, Ice Dub. Any of the Ice Dubs will work fine. And yeah, also you could just create a little dubbing ball here if you wish, but if you want to follow along, this is just a Stonefo dubbing twister. It's more for trial flies actually. It doesn't really have the necessary weight to give you the momentum that certain steelhead loops require. But it's what I have, and it works. So, yeah. So I'm using just this ice dub that's like a little lighter pink. I think it's like the shrimp pink.
Yeah, that's a nice color.
The SDS Trilobo is also a good one. The hot orange, that one's longer fibered. So it'll give you some.
That's actually I have going here.
Yeah, right there. That'll really allow you to pick it out. Yeah.
So
some ice dubs. Some ice dub colors are also longer fibered.
Not quite as stiff though.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice about this stuff. But yeah, the ice dub's awesome. I like this stuff, and what I'm gonna do is Patrick's showing you one method there with the loop at the back, which does give you a little more bulk. Also, I just dub this stuff straight on, but because this is a longer fiber, I can pick it out a little more than Patrick's gonna be able to do with the ice dub. So
definitely
might be something to consider depending on the material of choice.
I broke my dubbing loop. Also.
Hey, you might have missed it, but I cut my thread. So
no worries.
It's a stream. Stuff happens.
So just gonna tie that dubbing. Oh god, that's disgusting. But I'll tie that dubbing loop off and trim it off. And then I got my little makeshift brush here. Use a toothbrush, buy a dubbing brush. I got a popsicle stick with a Velcro thing on it. And just
And if you want to be fancy, then here's the Stonefo popsicle stick with a dubbing brush.
Yeah, definitely. That's better. All right, next up, we're going to. This is just kind of like a woolly bugger body, nothing special about it.
Yep.
So of course, just I got some small copper wire here. Doesn't really matter the color. It's more for reinforcing the guinea. So So I'll just tie that in, tie a length of that in. Yeah, so as you can see, Chris's STS is looking really nice back there.
As is yours. As is yours. I've got some silver wire here. So just another case, like Patrick says, the color of this really doesn't matter. It's going to blend into the fly. It's not a visible rib. But feel free to substitute what you have at home.
So next up would be Guinea. Guinea. Pretty cool.
It's a great fiber.
Yeah, it's stiff. It's variegated, which is excellent for these steelhead flies. And Chris has a little different technique on it. I was watching the video he did for the Isaac Walton Fly Fishing Club. An excellent resource for you to check out as well. He ties in the Guinea at once he finishes the body, and then once he reaches the end, he'll counter wrap with the wire to catch it in. That gives me a little bit of anxiety because I feel like I'm gonna miss it at the butt there. So
and sometimes you do.
Yeah. So what I do is I just kind of I'll show you guys what I do, but it involves tying in the Guinea feather first.
Yeah.
So everything's a little bit more secure.
So if you're gonna do it that way, I will show my way. Neither way is wrong. Both work very, very well, I think.
So I just pick a nice little fiber there, and then we only want like the stiffer fibers up here. So all of this chickaboo, marabou looking stuff at the bottom, you could just strip off. And there's also an incredibly good resource on the Drift Outfitters YouTube channel about how to fold hackle. And while that may be important if you're folding like Spey hackle or schlappen for like a more demanding fly, this Guinea is just serving as a prop. So you'll see what we do with it. Nothing special. So I'm just going to isolate the tip and then tie that in. And then hope that doesn't break. So next we're gonna do the body. So you basically just need two colors of ice dub, one for the butt and then one for the body. The body is a little less important, but I like to use something that kind of relates to the color of marabou, which I'm going to be using, which is olive. Yep. So I'm using ice dub, olive brown. This is a really cool color. If you guys don't know, it's
it's so fishy. It's so good.
Yeah. Ian loves this color. He likes to tie. Mr. Ian Troop. Team Canada Fly Angler just featured last Thursday. He also has a couple more sessions about CDC and hare's ear, which you guys should check out. He loves this material. And I do too. It's great.
Yeah, it's all right. I've got one of my other favorites going here just because I'm working on a little bit of a different color combo. Same thing, ice dub, peacock black. This is a really fishy one too.
Yeah.
So, but same thing. I'd say, Patrick, you're looking for a much sparser amount on the body. Would you agree?
Yeah, much more than the butt. As I proceed to dub on the thickest dubbing needle. Yeah, but you just need something to cover it up.
Yeah, just enough to cover it. And you could use other stuff here too. Like dubbing is kind of the go-to for hobo spays, but take a page of Intruders. You could go with like what we're going to use on our next fly, like a flat braid. You could use a tinsel. You could, frankly, just skip the body color. You know, if you're or if your thread kind of matches the fly, I would say.
Yeah, or if you feel super fancy, you could pick up like a really stiff streamer brush, like the one that I picked up, which is like the EP Thunderstruck, I think.
Yeah,
that can almost replace the Guinea as a prop.
It can. I've done it before. I find it gives you actually a way larger profile fly. So I'd say if you're trying for that, it's good. It might even be too much for some folks.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, personal preference.
Yeah. So as you can see here, we're just leaving a couple millimeters of space at the top. That's for us to do our marabou, do our Amherst, Flashabou, all that good stuff. So now we're here. We're just going to wrap our Guinea up. I'll do my technique, and then I'll let Chris demonstrate his technique.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special. I'm just kind of folding it so it's a little more manageable here, but in the end, it's just...
Yeah, not doing like a real hard fold, just kind of trying to clear the fibers away. You can see Patrick's actually got a few fibers kind of forward facing, like they aren't all pushing right back.
Yeah.
I actually like that. I think in this fly is great because it gives you, again, more body. If it's kind of pushing against the flow of the fly, it kind of stands up the marabou. The one problem with these flies is that marabou is just so soft, right? if you're not careful, it gets pushed down really slick in the water, and in heavy flows, kind of loses its shape sometimes. So nice to have some bulk.
So let's make sure you guys are in focus. There we go. So yeah, this is just like crazy. But it'll work well as a prop. I'm gonna tie that back a little bit. Yep. So I wrap that Guinea Fowl forward, and I'm just gonna counter wrap the copper wire, wiggling it through the Guinea fibers, just to give it some more strength. We don't want to pin down and get those fibers, as they're doing us good for popping it up. So once we reach the top, we're just gonna take our thread, cross it over.
I think, sorry, Patrick, your camera might have shifted there a little bit, or maybe it was your vise. I didn't actually notice, but it's a little off frame. I don't know if you'd even be able to zoom out with that camera or just move the vise back maybe ever so slightly so we could see more of it. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. The fly's going to get real big soon, so I think that could be good.
Yeah. So then, neat trick if you're new to fly tying, you can just helicopter wire off instead of running your scissors. Come on, bud. Helicopter.
It's always so easy when you do it off camera. There you go. Eventually I'll go. Nice. So yeah, that's probably the easier way of doing it, I'd say. I'm going to show you my way. So same thing. I've got a large kind of guinea feather here, but you'll see I've dubbed the body without having tied it in. I'm going to start it at the base and then wrap back. And when I do that, I'm going to show you a slightly sparser way you can tie it. So you can tie it with both sides of the guinea incorporated. That gives you a really bushy fly. Or if you want something a little sparser, it's going to sink faster as well because it doesn't have as much drag in the water. You can strip one side. So if you're looking at it, the feather curves away from you, you're going to strip the right side. So if I was facing the feather, it'd be this side coming off. Just pull that off. And strip off a little bit of the fluff at the bottom because the stem is real thick down here. I'll just tie that in by the base, whereas Patrick was by the tip there because he was coming from the other direction.
And this is not a bad way to, like, this is a very viable way to do it as well, because I notice with my technique, sometimes at that tip junction where I tie it in first, it breaks off once I start wrapping it, right?
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know if I even like this way better necessarily. It definitely works well.
It's just a different way to do it.
It's just a different way of doing it. Yeah, that's really
it.
What I do like about it is, personally, when I can avoid counter wrapping my tinsel, as in wrapping it in the opposite direction of my thread, I do, because it's just easier to tie off. I think that's a nice part.
Definitely. If you're like the wire, if you really want to get technical with it, you could wrap the guinea away from you, and then the wire to counterwrap it, counterwrap the wire the regular way, the way that your thread is going, and then that way when you tie it off, it's almost tightening the wire as well because it's pushing it away. So that's more effective for strengthening your flies. It might be something I'm considering if I'm doing pheasant tails, but as Ian taught on Thursday, counterwrapping doesn't really matter.
Well, Ian does kind of counter wrap, by doing that thread twist thing.
Yeah,
even though we won't admit it. Yeah, it's similar.
Yeah,
similar. But I think if anyone wants to see that in practice, they can go back and watch that video, and we'll get better idea versus us trying to explain it. So you can see I've achieved the same effects, Patrick. I'm going to come in and just carefully snip out the tip of that feather. You can see mine's a little sparser, but this is going to be a slower water fly versus Patrick's, which would be a little faster.
And there's variations that you could do at the head to make this better for faster water, like tying in just half of a guinea feather. Yeah,
exactly. So and up front too, like I don't know if I'm going to do it on this one actually, but sometimes I'll do a little bit of guinea at the front there to push a little more water too. It's another option that you can go with. For sure.
Yeah. So the next step would be to tie in some marabou. So for these spey flies, we use select marabou, and this is a little bit different from the woolly bugger or blood quill marabou that you encounter. The fibers are a lot longer, or the feathers are a lot longer itself, and the fibers are a lot longer too. As you can see here, they stretch all the way to the end of that wire, as you can see. But even within these packs, you'll find some with like really thick stems at the bottom, and they only start tapering off to be really thin up super close to the top. What you want to try to find is one with long undamaged fibers, and a relatively a stem that thins out relatively early, so you don't waste a lot of your feather. So what we're going to do is we're going to, let me zoom in so you can see the stem here. So we're going to go to the portion of the stem just where it becomes, coming from the bottom, will go up, go up, go up, just where it becomes wrappable. We're just going to yoink all those feathers off. And then we can save those for bugger tails or BB tails. Everything's good.
Yeah, no need to waste that stuff. Even dubbing. I think Marabou is an underrated dubbing for some applications.
So then now, as you can see here, we just got, okay, that was enough for you guys.
Yeah.
We just got this, like, top third.
Yeah, so it's nice. You can see what Patrick means by wrappable, right? Like you could, down here, you can still bend and wrap that freely, whereas, it's really thick stem at the bottom you can't do much with.
Yeah. So this is where things get tricky for me because Marabou is a little bit intimidating to wrap. But,
a little unruly.
It's not that bad. Yeah. You could definitely wet it down. I'm just a little lazy. And I prefer not to use my saliva around things on the tying bench because not everything's so clean on the tying bench. But, yeah.
Probably a good
COVID
practice.
I'm just going to isolate the tip, and then I'm going to tie it in, just like I did my Guinea. So Marabou is just like any other hackle. It's still a feather at its root. So now I have the tip in. I could cut it out. I'm just going to fold it back. Does not really matter. And then I'm going to advance my thread to the top. So now I just have this tied in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it back. Now this is the stage. If you had a bowl of water here or you want to lick your fingers, fold all those feathers back. And then I'm just going to wrap, take touching wraps, but not overlapping wraps because we want each of these fibers to undulate nicely in the water and tantalize the fish.
You'd prefer not to do what I just did, which is get a little too cocky and try and break off the tip and then just utterly fail.
No, I did that with the dry fly hook yesterday, and I completely broke the hook. I was yoinking off the tag end while starting my thread, and then.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah, no, I think I bent the hook a little too much previously, but so I'm not taking touching wraps. I'm going to try to redo this. It's a little difficult with the camera in the way. I just wanted to give you guys a nice point of view.
Mm-hmm. It is appreciated.
Right.
And if anyone's wondering, yes, that's why our vices are facing the opposite directions here. It's not because one of us is left-handed. Patrick just thought he'd be nice and give you a better perspective.
Wow, I really messed up in Marabou.
It's all right. We'll try and divert some attention, and everyone can watch me again, probably again fail at this.
All right, I'm kicking that feather out.
Are you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it. That stem was really delicate. Yeah.
You do have to be careful, I think, sometimes about tying in too close to that tip as much as we want to maintain all that length to it.
Yeah.
They can be a little on the delicate side, for sure.
In the meantime, small talk. What the heck's the difference between olive and sculpin olive, Chris?
Sculpin olive is like an olive brown. It's a little darker.
Oh, okay.
I actually really like, I think in a lot of ways sculpin olive is a fishier color than straight olive.
I have it right here. Yes.
I really like it. Yeah.
There's the difference between sculpin olive and olive. So I actually ran out of olive with that. All the feathers are a little thicker than I would like. I'm just going to yoink out this sculpin olive, and I'm going to try to pick out a nice one.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I've gone through a bundle, this size of Marabou plumes here, and found maybe 3 or 4 that really works nicely for one of these flies. The rest I just save for other purposes because.
My God, Chris is fast. So just to recap, Chris was talking about selecting the right plumes from the bag. Be picky because this is pretty much a Marabou fly.
It's pretty much the whole fly. So yeah, best to be a little selective, a little picky, I think, in this case.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've done this step now 4 times between us, essentially. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. Hope you don't mind, Patrick. So a couple other things that we're going to tie in this fly. So this is why we like to leave an ample amount of room when we're tying our bodies, just so we have room to work with here. And this might be even a little tight for some folks to work with, so you may want to leave more. But so classic hobo is, I want to say 2 strands of flash on either side of the fly, like kind of angled to top. That's the classic pattern. I don't really care if you want to tie a flashier one or a more subtle one. Go for it. Omit the flash. Make it all flash. I don't think it matters. Well, I mean, it does matter to how it's going to fish, but tie it however you like. So I've got 2 strands, and the way I tie them on is, if we're doing this more the classic kind of way, I just bring them up underneath my thread and place them kind of on the top quarter of the fly there on one side, and then these ends sticking out the front, I fold back toward me on this side and tie them down tight. And then I just kind of bring it back in a bundle and just cut them a little longer than the Marabou. It's my go-to. That's just a pearl. I really like this flash. This is micro Flashabou, and I think they call it opal. Yeah.
Ooh, that's going to move great.
What's that?
That's going to move great. The thinner diameter.
Yeah, it's a lot thinner than regular Flashabou, so it's got a lot of motion, and it's also just got a really nice shine to it. It kind of works with any color combo. Like, yeah, that's the standard pearl, so you'll see the difference in how it blends in. You can use
if you're going to buy one
here.
color, it'll probably be pearl because it goes so well with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard to miss with pearl. Like, even pearl on black may not be the most obvious thing, but it blends in just fine. It looks good, I think. So we got that. And then to cap it off, assuming you don't want to put on more guinea at the very front, little Amherst makes for a nice touch if I can find.
Amherst is a beautiful bird. Its feather just looks like this. It's a pheasant in the end, so you just use it like a pheasant, but you don't wrap for accenting. Yeah. So as you can see, I just wrapped my Marabou there. I crowded the head a little bit. I'll make it work, hopefully. Yeah. So.
I misplaced my Amherst here. I'm gonna grab another section.
So
I'll let you take
Chris
this
did
one.
the traditional hobo, designed by Charles St. Pierre, by the way. I think he's a guy out in Alaska. Or, anyways, fishy guy.
Obviously knew what he was doing.
Yeah, so I just kind of dome the Flashabou over the top instead of like bothering to put it to the sides either way. Sounds great. Flashabou adds a lot of movement and flash. So next, we're just going to pull out our Amherst. So traditional hobo, I believe, is around the 4 corners of each fly. You put a clump of 2 fibers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
again, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost. Okay, we're good. Lost you for a brief second there.
Yeah. Glitch it out like that a bit. So yeah. So just as a clump of 2, just gonna start out on the top, and then do you ever bother with the 2 wraps for each thing, and then 8 wraps at the end with the Amherst? Undo 8 wraps at the end.
Oh, I see what you mean. Personally, I don't. If you have trouble, I suppose, with your head getting too thick, you could. And so, I'll show what you're talking about there, so people can understand. So, what he's talking about is, we're tying in all these different stages. The thread wraps, because we're right at the eye, can kind of get away on you. So I just put, I think it was 2 wraps on that, 2 strands of guinea, or Amherst rather. I'm going to do the same with this one. Usually I cut my Amherst to length, so this actually might be kind of tricky the way that I do it. I don't have a lot of extra to catch in at the end, but we'll see how it works. So another 2 wraps there just to catch it. Grab another 2. Come to, oops, slipped on me a little bit. Tie that one on the side.
And Amherst, it has a purpose here. It has some variegation. In nature, things are rarely one solid color.
It's a great point. I have a very hard time. The one kind of monochromatic fly that I really like is just something straight white. That one always seems to work for me, but I can't bring myself to tie it ever. Because you're right, like there's nothing in nature that is. So it is nice to break it up. So just to show you quickly, what Patrick was talking about with the 2 wraps on each and then 8 off kind of thing. So I've tied in 4 separate clumps of Amherst here using 2 wraps a piece. But now that means I have 8 wraps on here, where really it only takes a couple to secure all of these fibers all the way around. So I'll see if I can do it. So I'm going to grab all my fibers. I might end up covering up this fly a little bit, so apologies for that. I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 wraps off. So you can now see all my butt ends are loose. And then I'm going to come in and just make a few wraps, which should do just as good a job securing everything with less bulk. That's what you're talking about, I assume, Patrick?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. And you did it fantastically. I've tried that a couple times. Failed miserably. All I know.
I don't think it's necessary. Like, I get it if you're using a thicker thread, but like I say, we're using relatively thin thread with the 8-aught here, and I don't know if that really saved me much bulk. So
yeah,
it's the finickiness of it, and it's also just the time. Like, I don't know. I just keep on tying. I don't bother doing that myself. But it is a cool trick that I will use sometimes if I'm tying similar flies, different materials where bulk is a concern. So it's not a bad little trick to have in your cap. So we'll throw on a whip finish. Now we have a, in my opinion, pretty good whip finish video coming out next week as well, which is overdue.
Whenever I do that, and then I misplace it everywhere. So maybe I got some stuff to learn from that video. So as you can see, my head is like thick. But I kind of like that because it's like I'm not too sure if you guys are familiar with like the there's a Stillwater pattern. It's like the pumpkin head or Anyways, it's basically an olive woolly bugger with an orange head.
Yeah.
And that color combo seems to work really well. So that's kind of what I was trying to emulate here as well.
Yep.
With the hot orange head, I think it might attract some appeal. Olive and orange goes really well together, anyways.
Yeah, it's great. It's like a weightless bead head that you're including in there, a little hot spot with the thread. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's a great fly. Very nice.
So,
of course, we can pull head smell in there if we want to.
Before we move on, we could do a little discussion on attaching the hook and whether it should be up or down.
We could. I'm still torn on that one, to be honest. I fish, anyone who fishes with me, I do fish shanks. I fish a lot more tubes. And although you can run an inverted hook on a tube, they're almost always hooked down. And I don't have any trouble hooking them with that hook down. But then most of my shanks I run hook up and also don't really have any trouble hooking with that. I don't know if it matters all that much. But
yeah,
maybe
I ended up just tying the stuff in. I usually do it hook down on my shanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried it hook up for my first fish, and it was still hooked in the bottom of the jaw. So yeah. So that kind of confused me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like we always think, a lot of people say, hook up, avoid snagging bottom. You shouldn't. If you're swinging flies, you really shouldn't be on or near bottom. So I'm not sure if that's the biggest concern for me. Like swinging flies, you should be in the upper-ish part of the water column at least. But then also, I know that there's a debate always on hooking top versus bottom jaw. So the top jaw of a fish articulates less. You think, you can't really move or hinge your upper jaw, right? It's part of the skull. It's not moving anywhere. But the bottom jaw does move around, and so that could pose issues to landing fish. I know that there is some talk about that. I know Kelly Gallup, if you look at all his streamers, they're hooked down. And his theory is that if you look at, sort of the anatomy of a fish's mouth, there's a much deeper sort of cutaway on the bottom. And so theoretically, you might have more space to get a hook in, a little bit more chance just because of that angle. In the bottom of the mouth? I don't know. It seems to work either way for me.
That's a really cool way to look at it. It's a physiological approach to hook up or hook down.
But again, I don't know if there's proof either way. I don't know. I'll say most fish that I catch at least seem to be in the upper jaw, occasionally bottom, but yeah, I don't know. If anyone has a more definitive answer or study that they can direct us to, please do. So this is the same shank, right? Patrick?
Yeah, this is the same 25mm shank. I think it's really good. I rarely tie on the 40mm unless I'm going with like something really, really big.
Yeah.
But yeah, this gives me enough real estate to work with, and you'll see some massive variations in our materials here.
Well, it's slight. I don't know about massive, but a little different.
Yeah,
little
I'm just using the.
I will say, so like I've got some 40s here too. These are the 40s, so like you can see out in the pack, decent bit longer. I like these guys if I'm not even so concerned about the size of the fly, because usually it's like most of my flies are front station only, but they do add a considerable amount of weight. And so if you try to get into like a heavier current and fish it,
that is a good thing to mention.
Sometimes that can be a big change. Yeah.
Yeah, shanks add weight. A considerable amount of weight. I mean, if you look at how like just a hook thinks, it actually has a really good sink rate by itself, as long as there's not too much stuff attached to it. So I know who's the guy? Hooks for Life fly fishing. His guy's name's Peter Charles. He's a huge fan of like tying flies so that they have downforce on them. I don't know. He studies like the dynamics of water around it, and he fishes those lines instead of he fishes those flies instead of using sink tips. He'll use really long just leaders, and then he'll rely on that to get the fly down. Yeah,
I think there's like sometimes that can be a good approach. I think there's another side to it too, though. Long leaders and like heavy-ish flies do get down a fair ways. However, it's not always a very effective way, depending on your casting distance, to slow down your swing. If you have mostly leader in the water, it's going to sink pretty well, and slow down relatively well. But if you have a decent bit of line in the water and you're cross stream, that floating line is going to catch a lot of current too. And so in my mind, that ends up fishing faster than I want it to in some cases. Slower water obviously doesn't matter quite so much, and sometimes speed is a good thing in slower water. But I think tips still definitely have a place. And also, lighter flies move better. So just to play devil's advocate there.
Yeah, no, I feel like I still fish tips. I've only ever fished tips. I never experimented with the downforce. But yeah, that's just what some people are trying in the community. But sink tips, proven, they work well.
They're good.
And
so
I'd argue that they're better and easier to customize than trying to tie a downforce fly and managing that with mending, etc., etc.
I think it's great. If anyone wants to, focus, I did it again. Just proof that these shanks can be kind of sharp. I think studying, the hydraulics of a fly is a great, very worthy thing to do. But I think there's a lot more aspects and angles to it than just depth all the time.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. It's good to bring that component of speed into this discussion.
Yeah. Cool. We got a question from Joel here. I'm thinking of a hook set where you're lifting the rod up or to the side. It would make sense that most hookups would be in the top jaw or the side, even if it's hooked down. Yeah. I don't see why not. Yeah, I think once a fish grabs hold of a fly, the hook probably kind of rolls around in their mouth a decent bit, anyways, and probably finds its way into places we wouldn't expect. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's just with swinging. The hook's gonna jumble, of course, but we try to avoid like trout setting, right? Well, yes. The one time you would definitely want to set would be on a dangle. If your fly's downstream of you, you don't have the current on the fly to provide the force, right? Exactly. So you really do need to, for one, put some force into it, and two, create some angles. Generally, that's where we're doing a huge swing off one side or the other of our bodies to try and get a little angle and stuff. That's a tough hook set, but that would be the one exception. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. You try and kind of play it cool and keep it to it. So you've got some holographic tinsel there, yeah? Yeah, so we got we're tying the Aqua Scandi now. This is very similar to the hobo. It's just with the Marabou wing instead of wrapping it around. So we're just tying in the butt here. If we go into the anatomy of this fly, it's got a little bit of a tinsel butt. I think Chris over there is going to use some. Yeah, I've got a flat braid. So I think this was the original material for this fly, but I think either is going to be great for sure. Tinsel's a little delicate, so I'm just going to put a little bit of head cement down. Not necessary at all. I'm just gonna wrap. But yeah, Tinsel is a little slipperier, so I think flat braid stays in place better, which is nice because it has some texture. But yeah, for Tinsel, definitely what Patrick's doing is a good call. I leave quite a bit of room on this fly, like compared to the hobo. I don't know about you, Patrick.
I mean, I kind of just tied the Aqua Scandi from like looking at your photo. So
sure.
Yeah, you probably found it in a book because there's no instructions to tie it online.
I actually found so the Aqua Scandi is very similar to another one of Senyo's flies, which is maybe I'm tying it totally wrong. We just got the new or relatively new-ish modern Steelhead flies book in, so I should check it out in that book, see if he details it. But there's another fly of his called the Predator Scandi, which it uses a fin raccoon wing. And this is basically just a smaller version of it using an aqua veil, chenille, and no tail or anything, smaller shank, but the tying is about the same. And there are tutorials on that, so that's honestly where I picked it up. But I like the fly.
Oh,
it's a cool fly.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it'll swim well too. That Marabou wing, because it's like it's just at the tip, there's a lot of movement I expect from that.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is just an EP Thunderstruck brush in peacock.
If you hold it back a little bit, Patrick, just so we can see it. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's one. This is, I think, the original. This is the chromatic brush from EP. I actually kind of like the look of Patrick's, I gotta be honest. But by the way, it's just a dubbing brush in like a stiff-ish kind of consistency. And this is gonna be used as a prop. So you can use whatever you like. You can even make a dubbing loop and throw some fox or something in there for it, I would say, if you wanted. So the stuff is, if you haven't used it, it's like a chenille, but with wire ends. All the materials are bound between a couple strands of wire. So we'll catch it in, make sure it gets tied in good. Well, I find the stuff has a tendency to kind of pull out as you start wrapping. So the first thing I do is I pull it forward to put like a big bend, a big kink in the wire. I find it less likely to pull out then.
That's smart. Yeah.
And then what you want to do with this fly is you want to trim one side of this stuff. Patrick's is a little sparser, so he should be good folding it. But what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to trim one side flush to the wire. Long enough. That's going to get me a couple wraps. And then I'm just going to do exactly what Patrick's doing there. Going to make a couple wraps back here.
And this is wire, so you don't want to be using the big scissors.
Yeah. I find doing the old helicopter trick, it does kind of work on this stuff, but it more just mangles the brush above the cutoff point, so I like to snip it too.
Yeah, I think the wire they use is pretty like resilient to twisting,
yeah,
right?
Really, well, by design, right?
Stuff. Yeah, so so maybe that's why, but yeah, it's a good tip. We got some nice side cutters there. So next up, we're just gonna stack up some Senyo's Aqua Veil Chenille.
Such a good material.
Well, like it doesn't. The color really doesn't matter. Just pick a color you like. This is the color that Drift had in stock. So,
I think we've got a few more than that, but that's
you definitely do. But
it's a nice one. I like that raspberry.
I love the Instra. I know he likes olive with cranberry Flashabou. Oh, so I think that's why that's what kind of pushed me. But I'm not tying this with olive Marabou anyway, so I don't think it makes that big of a difference. Yeah. Fenster's tying some awesome stuff too. We've got his new book in too. Yours doesn't mat as much, but the fox tends to mat a bit, so I'm just going to give this a quick brush out. Okay.
Stay on these fibers up.
Oh, there's some fox mix in that too?
Yeah, this is a fox and flash mix.
Oh, okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. I love the names on stuff. You've got wild raspberry. I've got chocolate covered cherry.
Nice. Yeah, that looks really cool. That's like a
black and red.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool. So this is almost the same thing, but its core is not a wire. I think it's just soft.
Yeah, this is very similar to anyone who's used polar chenille. Very similar product. Maybe a little less curl in the fibers themselves, but then it's more of a blend of colors. As opposed to like the polar chenille tends to be a little bit more one colored. So yeah, make a couple wraps here. There's no hackle, or there is actually a hackle on the very front, but there's no real flowy hackle apart from this stuff. So this is the movement on the lower half of the fly is all this stuff. This core, I would say, is pretty thick, so just word of caution to everyone. This is why I like to leave a lot of room. It's just so you can wrap this comfortably without bulking up too much. So I'll make 3.5 wraps there and tie off. Vice moved a little bit. There we go. Clean that up a little.
Just
there we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So nothing much, just some flash. Still add definitely some movement. And it'll kind of prop up the Marabou wing just a bit too.
Yeah. I haven't tried this.
So next up would be the Marabou. Chris, are you using your select Marabou or a shorter feathered?
So you can, you can use either. It doesn't really matter, honestly, on this one. You want like a decent quality feather, but you can use whatever you like. I have mostly select Marabou. I don't buy much else.
Oh, bougie.
It's just because that's like even my tails. Like anyone who's seen me tie buggers and stuff, like that's how I tie them usually. Is just
it's just how you pack everything's come together, right?
So,
without the stem in the tail, the buggers too. That's nice. So I'm just gonna be using some regular blood quill Marabou.
Yeah. Frankly, I think that's the better way to go. You don't need this stuff for this purpose. I'll find a better feather.
So this is actually some pretty funky stuff. I actually don't even know if the way that I tie in a Marabou wing is correct. I was asking Winston down at the shop, and it looks like it's not a very common technique.
The only fly I can think of that's similar, and there are probably others, but would be the old Alaska Boo. Like super classic, you know, the original Marabou fly. I think, at least I think it's fairly original. Sorry, this stuff I have here just actually isn't awesome for this purpose. See, this is the problem with using the good stuff. I'm conflicted using the really nice plumes, but the not so nice ones aren't nice enough. So, you know, this is sort of a half used up plume, this one. So yeah, just tie it on top. Yeah, it is sort of a unique idea. And
are you using I use 2 plumes on my other one because
really?
Naturally feathers are concave, concave and convex one way, right?
Interesting. So I don't. I'll say.
Oh, okay.
I just try and find like a fairly limp feather. It doesn't have too much curve one way or the other. You can see it's fairly straight. But I mean, it's not wrong. I think that's just again, different way to do it. Another evolution of the same fly. That's why we tie flies.
Yeah.
That stuff can be, I think, a little tricky to tie off sometimes because you don't have a ton of grip on it. It's a large bundle of material that you're tying in, so just really make sure you do lash it down good and tight. Something like that.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, we both tied black. I didn't notice.
I was gonna do purple off the bat, but just like saying, I've got some really nice big plumes here, but I just feel conflicted about using them for this fly where I'm bundling it up and wasting a lot of it. So went to the black, which I just have more of here, and found a nice one. I think that'll work. I tie a little flash. Just use the same flash.
The Marabou's looking out. My Marabou slipped out.
Yeah, I find that happens sometimes. You gotta be careful about the stem in particular. It does like to do that sometimes. That's why I say just really do lash it down good and tight.
And my camera face. Oh, that's dumb. I'm just trying to get my fly secured in the vise. I picked it up and all of my thread wraps came undone.
Hey, all good. We've all been there. Anyone who hasn't is lying.
That's okay. Okay, I'll catch you back. But Chris is just tying in some flash.
I'll go ahead here while you catch up a little. So, yeah, I use the same flash, but you could use any kind of flash you want. Or again, no flash if you don't want it. I just really like this micro stuff. So I've got 3 strands this time. I'm gonna go a little heavier. That makes a difference. I'm gonna tie it in the same way, just kind of pull it up underneath my thread This is a really easy way to place any kind of material. You just kind of draw up under the previous wrap. And then I'm just going to fold it over. Tie it down the other side, and again, snip to about the length of the wing.
Yeah, and I'll be using the same, just pearl Flashabou.
Nice.
Same thing. Make sure my fly is a
little soft. Keep going.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry.
And this fly, it's got one other feature. It's this guy again.
And this is something you can do on the hobo too.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good point. So yeah, we kind of mentioned that you could, we tied our hobo without any guinea in front. But like we said, you can definitely do it with, kind of like we're about to do on this fly for a little extra bulk. So I've got a guinea feather, purple this time. Strip off the fluff. I tie in the whole thing, like both sides. I mean, I don't strip a side on this one.
Oh.
I like some bulk.
Oh, okay. Smart. I'll give that a go this time then.
Yeah. So,
yeah, so
I'm going to tie it in the same way you did last time, Patrick. Just let it tip. Yeah. Just because I'm wrapping basically in place here. I'm not wrapping front to back or anything weird. So
what would you think about doing that for the hobo space? So like you just dub the body and then like you create a really dense like shoulder of guinea just at the top of that dub body.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, if you don't want to rib the whole body, that's a great point. You can totally just do it right at the front, kind of intruder like, where you have that station all kind of cramped together at the front, creating that bulk, and that'll actually probably give you a more pronounced look.
Yeah, if you're fishing some quicker water, or you want like that initial.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've just kind of folded this roughly here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna aim to get like a good 2-3 wraps here. My head's getting kind of large at this point, so we'll see what we get.
Yeah, my guinea pulled out.
What's that?
My guinea slipped out.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. I could blame the camera in the way, but I don't think I just...
Oh, sure you can. Ian had his Band-Aid the other night that he was blaming everything on. You can totally blame it on that camera. You're sacrificing everything so that we get a better angle here. I think that's very fair. Got that tied off. This is one thing I don't think enough people have at their desk. I don't know if you do, Patrick, or not. Do you have one of these?
Oh, yeah, tying wax.
This stuff is so handy. Yeah. And like the reason I'm using it is I'm getting close to the head. I'm not really crowding the eye. Not what I would describe as crowding the eye, but things could get away on you if you're not careful here. If you're ever trying to really pack in a nice tight head, this stuff is a godsend. All you do, take a little bit of it, just kind of wipe it down your thread. It's not soft. It's soft-ish, but it's not super soft like a dubbing wax. So it doesn't, it's not to some extent a liquid. It's fairly solid stuff, and it just gives your thread more grip, so you can kind of, just like you saw there, pile on wraps on top of each other and they don't slip. So if you want to get a nice tight head, that is your best friend. It's a cheap material. It lasts you forever. Very worthwhile. I'm just going to whip finish. You can see I'm just placing those wraps.
That's the third time I just pulled out. Oh my goodness.
What's that? Oh, pulled out, yeah.
Yeah, I will, alright, let's try. And then talk a little bit about gear. If you were to recommend one more fly, what would you say, Chris?
Ooh, that's a good one. I have my box. Where is it here? I have my box, or one of my boxes right here. And to be honest, I don't have a ton of stuff in here, but if you guys don't mind seeing some beat up flies with tag ends of fluoro hanging off them, pop out this nice fresh fly and I'll throw in some ugly stuff. What is my number one here? I gotta say, for like conditions like we had last fall on the credit, it might seem a little silly. I've done well with this guy.
Really?
This is a size 10 salmon hook. It's a tiny hook with just a little bit of rabbit and red flash and a bead head. And for low water, I've done pretty well on that guy. But another one, this one actually, this is probably it though. I won't throw my tube fly adapter in the vise. I'll just rig it up with a hook. We have a video coming out on this one next week. Hopefully next week sometime, I think. Which I'm really excited for. This has got to be my favorite. I didn't really want to do it today because today's was more kind of, you know, what are a couple of great patterns to stock your box with when you're just starting out. But this thing, I have 100% confidence. Clear water, dirty water, whenever throwing this thing. This has been a winner for me.
Nice. What's that pattern called?
It's just like a pink and purple, hairwing tube fly. So, most tubes, if you look at them, are kind of constructed more or less the same way. So this is sort of a temple dog style fly. This is just with fox fur, but yeah. We had there's a fly from Rainey's that we had in the shop for a long time. That's similar to this, maybe a little bigger, and I fished those one season and just killed it on it. I had one of my best seasons ever, and ever since then, it's been a real staple. Can't get enough.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
There is one other little trick. I actually lied. This fly is not done. I mean, it is like you could fish that. It's a nice fishing fly at the moment. But there is one other little trick that that Greg has for this fly, which I quite like. I think it's clever. It's a sneaky little trick. What you want is some kind of UV glue. This is a thin Solares. I think he uses the Loon thin, and by all means you could use just about anything. But I'm going to take a little bit of that. It's easier, yes. Patrick, you actually have a better solution for this with the Loon bottle with the nozzle. Take just a little dollop of this stuff, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of this fly forward and just come in here and apply a little dollop just at the base of these hairs.
And that's to like kind of prop it up, right?
Exactly. It's really cool. So the glue kind of gets sucked up by the actual fibers a little bit.
Yeah.
And if I can find my light, there we go. Just hit that with our light. This just adds a whole lot more bulk to this fly. So this is an optional step, I would say. You don't have to do it. Fly would fish perfectly well without, but if you want that little extra bit of body in your fly, obviously it doesn't really come through here because we don't have water acting on this fly, but it's, I think, a pretty innovative, clever little solution for that. You could apply to lots of different sorts of styles of flies. And it's not, UV glue. It seems off the bat like that might make things a little too crusty or firm back there, but I find it, in small amounts, it actually does have a fair bit of flex to it. It doesn't crack, doesn't really create any issues back there. That's a cool little feature of this and the Predator Scandi.
Awesome, that's a neat tip. Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
But
sure.
Yeah, that's that.
Nice.
There's your Predator Scandi.
Or Aqua Scandi.
Oh shoot, yeah.
Basically same thing. Yeah.
Anyways, you got two excellent flies to fish now with easy to obtain materials.
Yeah.
Relatively cheaper materials to get started, and they fish amazing.
Are definitely proven by each of us on Ontario waters. So yeah, I think it's a solid bet. Good stuff to have.
All right, I'm going to switch to the front-facing camera now and talk a little bit about gear just to get into it. Just a brief discussion to get people started.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Patrick, you've got you're rocking a switch rod this season, I think, but the MRD is a great tip there. So yeah, you're starting with a switch or a short spay this year, but folks can definitely swing these things on single handers if they want to. I don't have a camera for you yet. Are you?
Oh, sorry. There we go. Sorry, yeah.
There we go. It's not just the ghost of Patrick. Oh, and saber in hand.
Yeah.
This guy. That's your weapon of choice, eh?
Yeah. This thing's like in 6 pieces now. Yeah, had an unfortunate mishap while landing a fish in January, and I stepped on it several times while taking photos of the fish.
Nice. Now, main rods will
Yeah.
stand up to that.
Yeah, no, but it's an excellent rod, Radington. So when you're starting around the Great Lakes region, for our small to medium tributaries, an 11.5 foot, if you want to get into double-handed stuff, an 11.5 foot switch weight in 6 to 7 weight, switch rod in the 6 to 7 weight range is an excellent rod, I find. How do you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I would encourage anyone learn on a single hander when you're starting out. Switch spey rod's great. We love them, but I think especially if you're on like the Credit, the Humber rivers around here, a single hander, throw an OPST or just throw a bass line or something on that, and that works quite well. But yeah, if you want to get into the two-handed stuff, definitely search out Great Lakes resources. We're always happy to help on that, but a lot of the information that you see and hear out there is definitely more geared toward the West Coast guys, bigger systems, bigger West Coast fish. It can be a little overkill around here. So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Definitely solid.
Definitely, and in the end, yeah, you're right. It's an amazing start with a single-handed rod, and fundamentally, like swinging flies. If you want success, just get your fly in the water. Try your best to slow it down as you wish, get it down as you wish. But in the end, if you stay consistent, a fish will bite eventually. It's a lot less intimidating than at least I thought it was. Because for the longest time, I looked at these people swinging flies, and it seemed really intimidating to me. I was scared to get into it, but this past fall, I booked out a trip with Matt Martin, an excellent Ontario guide, and he introduced me to swinging with the switch rod, and the rest is history. I really got into it, and I'm just rocking the Rio Switch Chucker line, which I find is really nice to cast because of the integrated running line. But just anything, a regular 10'7" single-handed, 10'7" weight single-handed rod will get you going as well.
It's a money stick for sure.
There's not much to it. As for sink tips, so off of your flat line, you need to have a sink tip, or you don't need to have a sink tip. I like to use sink tips. And initially, I bought like a huge variety of tips from like T14, I think, to like the lightest poly leader. And then Chris was like, hold on. Like, that's going to be a little bit difficult to learn how to cast because of the wide variety of grain weights and more grain weights, not sink rates, doesn't quite matter in casting as much. But he recommended me the Rio replacement tips, and these are fantastic. And they kind of simplify the choice for me when I'm out on the river. I just have 3 tips to choose from. Of course, you can diversify your collection, but this is a really good place to start. Drift has these in the store, and I just have the intermediate, the Type 3, and the Type 6, and that's been good for me.
Yeah, I think those tips are really underrated. Like they're a great tip. They're very easy to learn on when you're getting going. And so if you're starting on a two-hander with like a Skagit or a Scandi verse tip or something, those are great. If you're on a single-hander, I'd say stick with a poly leader. It's gonna be easier. But yeah, grab a couple different weights just so you have some options. A couple flies like we had, we showed here today. 2 or 3 colors kind of thing. Spool tip it and just hit the water, and like I said, just keep your fly wet, I think is the biggest thing. Like so many people focus on the casting, but end of the day, it's like anything, you're not catching fish if your fly's down the water. So yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah, just get out there and put your fly in the water. It's a lot of fun, especially this style of fishing. It's not like nymphing where you're like focused in on one thing for the entire time. It's a really nice way if you just want to relax for a bit, have some fun casting, and when a fish hits, it's gonna make your day.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage I think fall and winter can be a little intimidating for folks getting started with swinging. I think spring is an amazing time. It's just around the corner, even if it doesn't feel like it. If you want to get out and just play around with the style, get out in the spring and throw some flies like this for drop back fish or for spring run fish, and in April and early May. Those are great days. You're it's warm, they're long days, and fish are generally cooperative. You're going to enjoy yourself no matter what, and your chances are great. So I think for the sake of learning a new skill and getting comfortable swinging flies, that's the time to do it for sure.
Nice. Just one last question. Is there anything that you would do different between the fall and the spring in terms of fly choice or any gear recommendations?
So, yeah, I know guys who would say yes. Not much. So spring fish are, generally if you're talking about dropbacks, not quite as powerful as fall run fish. So you could theoretically go lighter if you had like a 5 weight or a 6 weight that you want to fish on bigger water. Maybe that'd be the time to break it out. If you wanted to do some lighter weight stuff, you could probably downsize your tippet if you wanted to a little bit more on spring fish, but not necessary. I don't think they're that line shy because they're hungry. Maybe slightly more natural stuff in the spring for the most part. I fish a lot of whites, like young of the year bait fish kind of stuff, a lot of olives, things like that in the spring versus the fall where it's a lot more blacks, purples, things like that. I think a lot of that has to do with just confidence, just what I've done. So it's not a great answer, but then also, you do have those young of the year bait fish around, and the water's just clear. Those fish are pressured, so going natural can be a great option. One thing I would mention is, for anyone who is going to get in the spring, everybody harps on it every year, but it is a very important thing to remember is just avoid the reds, right? So you've got lots of spawning fish. For those that aren't familiar with red, it's just a steelhead nest essentially, and those are usually found in shallower water, riffles, things like that, where there's even gravel. And you'll see, paired up fish kind of sitting in these particular spots. You'll be able to see them, but they're doing their thing. You want to leave them alone. You want to make sure they can successfully reproduce. You don't want to get in the way of that. So steer clear of those fish. Focus on the ones that are done spawning or still yet to spawn, that are going to be holding back in the deeper pools and stuff like that. If you see those paired up fish, just steer clear. But apart from that, it's a great time to be out.
Yeah, excellent answer. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to do that. Good point with the avoiding the reds. That's something that we should all be doing. Yeah,
absolutely. Taking care of the years to come. It's in our best interest.
Yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys learned something today. Don't be afraid of swinging flies. You have a single hand rod, get out there. You have a double hand rod, get out there. Just tie a couple of simple flies, keep them in the water, and you'll have lots of fun. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Cool. Thanks for being here, Patrick. And a reminder to everyone else, we do have more streams in the books, lots more in the books. Next week would be the 4th. That's Mike Craparota again. He's going to be tying some bucktail streamers. For anyone who tuned in last week as well to see Mike and witness some of the audio issues that we had, I sat down with Mike last night and we re-recorded that whole stream. So we tried to kind of remake what happened last week, but just in a pre-recorded version. So we're going to get that up on the site, maybe even later today, maybe tomorrow, something like that. But you'll be able to revisit that and watch that without those audio issues. So we have that. We have Mike coming up next. We have a whole bunch more beyond that. So I hope everyone can join us for those.
Awesome. And that's the Mike's stream that you re-recorded last night is for his favorite flies for the cred. Correct?
You got it. Yeah, good memory.
Yeah,
so awesome. Some good nuggets there for you.
Check that out if you want to start prepping up for trout season. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good weekend. Chat soon.
All right. See you guys.